Welcome to The Deep Dive. Today we're zeroing in on a really interesting little story bubbling up in the Formula One world. It's all coming from a People article dropped just yesterday, May 25th, 2025.
Right.
And we're going to unpack the details around Lando Norris, specifically his recent appearance with Margarida Corceiro, his rumored former girlfriend at the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, that definitely caught some attention.
Exactly. So our mission, if you like, is to look past the usual celebrity stuff and really try to understand the dynamics here. You know, their history, this possible reunion, and what it tells us about life in the fast lane.
Absolutely. It's always fascinating to get a glimpse behind the curtain, isn't it? Especially with the kind of pressure these F1 drivers are constantly dealing with. These smaller personal moments can actually say quite a lot.
For sure. Let's explore what this source material gives us.
Okay.
So let's head straight to Monaco. The article kicks off by pointing out Saturday, May 24th was a massive day for Lando professionally. He grabbed pole position in qualifying.
Yeah, huge.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal anywhere, but especially Monaco, right? What does getting pole there really signify for a driver?
Oh, it's massive. Securing pole at Monaco, it's often seen as, well, almost half the battle for the win.
Right?
The track is just so narrow, so notoriously difficult for overtaking. Starting at the front gives you this huge strategic edge. It says a lot about Norris's skill, obviously, but also about the McLaren team getting that car absolutely dialed in for qualifying.
Okay, so a real statement performance for the weekend. But then the people piece throws in this other element. They noted Margarida Corceiro was there in a box during that exact qualifying session. The wording was she was supporting him.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they even give a little detail, olive green outfit, blonde hair tied back. It definitely paints a picture, doesn't it? Someone seemingly invested in his big moment.
It does.
Given their supposed history. What makes her being there, specifically supporting him, stand out?
Well, the fact that the article labels her his rumored ex-girlfriend right off the bat, that's the key bit. It immediately flags that there's a backstory, so it's not just, some friend showing up. Her being there, apparently in that supportive role, on a day that's professionally significant for him, it definitely hints at something, doesn't it? A possible reconciliation, or maybe just that they've remained really close, even if they did split.
And the timing too, right? With that pole position.
Exactly. The timing coinciding with a major career high point like that, it just adds another layer of intrigue. Makes you wonder. Okay,
so let's dive into that history a bit more then. The article gives us a timeline, starting May 2023.
Right.
Apparently that's when Lando and Margarida were first seen together. It mentions this was after her split from soccer player João Felix. Not to dwell on that, but it gives context for when they connected.
Yeah, sets the scene a little bit.
So what else does the timeline show?
Well, it moves forward to April 2024. They were spotted together again then, this time at the Monte Carlo Masters tennis final. Wow. So that suggests it wasn't just a one-off thing back in 2023. There were these, subsequent public sightings that pointed towards something ongoing, even if, as the article notes, they never actually went public and confirmed anything.
Right.
And this idea of her quietly supporting him at races, it does build this picture of her being a consistent presence, sort of in the background of his professional life.
Their quiet support is interesting,
yeah,
especially with no public confirmation. Then the article points to August 2024. That's when Lando apparently stated quite publicly that he was single.
That was a key moment.
The context they give is quite specific too. He was asked about getting a dog, and his reply was basically, no time, I'd need a girlfriend first and I don't have one.
Yeah, that seems pretty unambiguous, doesn't it?
It really does. Seems like a clear signal that whatever relationship existed with Corceiro was over by then. So, seeing her back in Monaco, supporting him almost a year later, what is that shift?
Well, that public statement in August 24, it really acts like a punctuation mark in their story, doesn't it? It strongly suggested a separation.
Yeah. So her reappearance now in Monaco, in that supportive context at a high-pressure event, it implies something has potentially changed since last August.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you ask, what might have happened between then and now to lead to this apparent reunion, or at least this continued closeness.
It really does highlight the complexities, doesn't it? Especially under that kind of public gaze.
Yeah.
Before we speculate too much about the now, the article also briefly touches on Lando's earlier relationship.
Yes, with Luizio Oliveira.
Exactly, the model. That was roughly a year, 2021 to 2022. They cite Just Jared for that info. What does knowing about that previous relationship add to the picture?
Well, bringing in the Luisinho relationship gives a slightly broader view of his, let's say, public approach to personal life.
Okay.
The key difference highlighted is that he did publicly acknowledge that breakup. There was apparently an Instagram post, now deleted, where he confirmed it, but stressed it was amicable, wished her well, all that.
Right, quite standard. Yes, but it contrasts with the unconfirmed, more rumored nature of the situation with Corceiro. This difference in how he's handled things publicly might tell us something about maybe how he navigates his private life now, or perhaps the nature of the relationships themselves were different.
Interesting point. Okay, so let's pull back to this Monaco sighting.
Yeah.
For someone listening who maybe isn't, deep into celebrity news, why should this little story about Lando and Margarida matter? What are the bigger themes here?
That's a fair question. If you step back from the specifics, it touches on a few things that are pretty universal, actually.
Like what?
Well, first, there's the whole idea of rekindled relationships. Wondering if you can go back to a past connection and maybe make it work this time. Many people can probably relate to that on some level.
Sure.
But then there's the layer of being in the public eye. Especially in a super high-profile, high-demand job like Formula One, their lives are under this constant microscope. It makes navigating personal relationships incredibly tricky. Every outing, every gesture can be picked apart.
Yeah, I can't imagine that level of scrutiny. And you mentioned the timing earlier, his professional high with pole position, potentially coinciding with this personal development. How do those things interact for someone like him?
It's hard to say for sure from the outside, obviously, but generally speaking, an athlete's support system, including personal relationships, can be really crucial. Having that emotional anchor, knowing someone close is there supporting you, it can make a big difference in managing the stress and pressure. So while it's just speculation, Corceiro being there at such a key moment could suggest a positive, supportive dynamic, whatever their official status is.
And as you said, we have to remember what the article also stresses. This is all based on observation, on piecing things together.
Exactly.
Neither Lando nor Margarida has actually commented on this recent sighting or where things stand.
Precisely. And that lack of official word is important. It underlines that desire for privacy that's understandable for public figures.
So what's the main takeaway then for us watching from the sidelines?
I think the main takeaway is just a reminder that what we see in the media is often just a snapshot, maybe even a carefully managed one. We're building a narrative from limited clues.
Right.
The lack of confirmation really just highlights the complexities of reading into celebrity lives and why it's probably best not to jump to firm conclusions based purely on speculation. It's more nuanced than that.
Okay, so just to recap for everyone listening, we've looked at Margarida Corceiro turning up at the Monaco Grand Prix, specifically during the qualifying where Lando Norris took that pole position. We revisited their initial connection back in 2023, those later sightings.
Yeah.
Then Norris's public statement about being single in August 2024.
And we touched on his previous relationship with Luisinho Oliveira, just for context.
Right. And putting it all together, what really emerges is this constant interplay between a very public career and very private relationships.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for people in these incredibly demanding, highly visible roles. This whole situation just gives us a small window into those challenges, even if we don't have all the details from them directly.
So here's something for you, the listener, to maybe think about. What are those unseen pressures involved in trying to build or maintain personal, intimate relationships when your job puts you squarely in the spotlight and demands absolute peak performance all the time? Forget the specifics of Lando and Margarida for a second. What does it really take to balance those public and private worlds when every move can be watched and analyzed? It's a really fascinating tightrope they walk. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.